Good evening. Welcome you all to our emotional session tonight with the topic Accepting Life and Its Twist. My name is Xiomara Mayo Ingram, and like every Thursday, I'm going to be talking about this specific topic that we've chosen this particular week. And you know that this whole month of April has been about acceptance, and I have shared how I have been coping with acceptance myself in my personal life. So it's going to be a great session. It's been an amazing experience for me as I was preparing the topic and putting all the categories that I was going to be sharing with you tonight. And before we start, I would like to go ahead with certain reminders that I need to go over that I usually do. If you have not subscribed to our newsletter yet, you can do so. You just need to go to our webpage and click on the newsletter little sign that we have on the right of our webpage, and make sure that you write your email address. That's all the information that we need. Then you're going to be getting an email to confirm your subscription. Please click on the link that you're going to be receiving in that email, and therefore you'll be all set up and you will be receiving every month our newsletter directly to your email address. So if you haven't done that, you still have time to do it. We'll make sure that you get the April edition, and then you can continue getting the other ones as well. The other reminder that I want to share with you is that we have already opened our boot camp. I think I mentioned it last week. I have started working with individuals that contact me, and this is something that we're going to be doing not only with individuals but with families and groups and couples as well. But I had an amazing opportunity to work on my first boot camp with someone that came from another country, and we spent a couple of days working very intensely on those specific issues that he wanted to address and that he really needed some help with. So you're going to find all the information in regards to how to book yourself a boot camp with me to work with your own issues, to design what's going to be the best strategy and plan with you. And all you need to do is contact us, and we'll make sure to contact you personally and coordinate what will suit you best. I also want to remind you that in our webpage, we're constantly uploading future articles to inspire you, to continue helping you as you grow emotionally, and that you can email us with your questions. You can email us your situation or your suggestions. For instance, if you would like a specific topic for us to address, you can email me and let me know, and we'll see how we can include and integrate yours in our planning. So email, it's also on the web page, so make sure that you visit our web page. It's for you. Remember that Emotional Cafe, it's all about you, all about us as a community together, learning and growing together, conquering ourselves. But it is your website, it is your virtual platform for you to benefit from it and share with your friends, share with your family members. Make sure that others get to enjoy Emotional Cafe as much as you are. Finally, this is a live session. I want to remind you that we have the open chat, and you can ask your questions or your concerns, and I'll make sure that I address them within our time within the session. So just make sure that you have your chat working. Now, as usual, here I am with my little iced tea. Today I have iced tea because I've been having a little bit of a sore throat, so I apologize for that. So let's start with accepting life and its twist. And I want to start reminding what is my concept of acceptance, because some people, when we're talking about acceptance, they have this idea of conformity, being comfortable with it, or they understand that if I talk about acceptance, they pretty much interpret that it's about being happy with the way things are. And it's not really what acceptance is to me. I have addressed in the whole month of April that to me acceptance is making peace with yourself, making peace with ourselves, that something is just the way it is. It doesn't mean that I'm happy about it, it doesn't mean that I'm joyful and jumping up and down, but it means that I make peace with the fact that this is just the way it is. And then and most important of all, I get to decide what I'm gonna do next. If I want to change things, if I want to make adjustments, if I want to stay, if I want to move, if I want to redefine, depending on whatever it is that we're coping with. But that's what acceptance is about. I cannot make changes, I cannot move forward, I cannot make adjustments until that moment that I realize and I am fully aware of how things are, and I understand and accept that that's the way it is, and then I'm ready to emotionally be able to move forward. So when we're talking about accepting life and its twist, we're pretty much accepting life on life terms. You probably have heard this phrase. What does it really mean, accepting life on life terms? Well, it means that life is just the way it is. And it's funny because sometimes things happen to us and we immediately think it's a punishment, or we think it's something that we must be paying because maybe we did so and so in our past and we believe that this is what needs to happen, so we suffer, so we feel it as a punishment, as a burden. But the truth is that everybody who's alive is vulnerable to whatever thing happened in life, whatever event, because life simply is the way it is. Life happens, and we have this misconception that somehow we're going to be exonerated from it. And particularly me, I had a hard time. You know how when you're growing up you have this idea that if you're good, only good things will happen to you, and you don't understand how bad things can happen to good people. And it was something that I was always struggling to understand. And I was a very difficult teenager, and I would get so angry about that kind of thing because to me it was a reason for me to be mad at life itself. I was always complaining about life and always whining and always looking at the downside because I couldn't understand how terrible things happen or how accidents happen, or adversity in any way. And it took me a long time to realize that everybody who's alive, as much as we enjoy life, that's part of life itself. How we are all exposed to any twist, any incident, any event. And on that sense, I have used the word twist, and I hope you like those pictures that we use to illustrate life and its twist. Because to me, a twist is like something that just took a turn all of a sudden, something that I was not planning, something that I was not anticipating, something that is all of a sudden that causes some sort of inconvenience or discomfort or annoyance or disappointment when it happens. So by using the word twist, I think it was just perfect because it was a way to put it simple, because that's just the way life is. But at the same time, it illustrates how everything changes all of a sudden, how something really shakes you to the core. And that's what life twists was. That's pretty much what I was thinking when I was planning for this session. Now, I have different categories that I can share with you about scenarios and situations in which life can take a twist. Life can take any kind of turn that we're not expecting and that we might not be very happy about. And I'm going to actually look at it from the negative perspective, because usually when it's something really, really good, then we're not upset about that. We're happy. But the part that we really have a hard time with is when life presents itself in an unexpected way that is not pleasant for us. And that's pretty much what I want to be able to help you with tonight, because part of what I'm going to do at the end of the session is give you some recommendations to find your inner peace, to be able to find peace regardless those amazing twists that sometimes life plays on us. So where do we find life twists? Where do we find incidents that can really shake us and can really affect us in a very strong way? The first one that I put together was that we can find life twists within our family. And I refer to maybe sickness, maybe someone, a member of our family, is going through a hard time because they have been diagnosed with a disease. That is something that really shakes us all. Maybe it is a death, a member of our family who passed away or died all of a sudden, unexpectedly. But also it can be when the family is coping with any material loss. Let's say that as a family they lost everything they had, or maybe they have money and then they went broke. And that kind of situations are things that really shake the whole family, and it really affect everybody. But we as individuals, we feel very beaten by any of that. Even if it's not happening directly to me, it still hurts a lot. I remember when, and this is something that I openly talk about, when my sister was diagnosed with cancer. She was 32 years old, and I remember that it was as if they had moved the entire ground off my feet. I just felt as if I was fainting, as if I was just losing it, because I couldn't believe when we were hearing those news. And for a moment, it was as if the whole world stood still. And that's the kind of sensation that sometimes we have when we go through these kind of twists related to our family. So again, it doesn't matter the age, it doesn't matter how close they are. It has to do with that sense of being hit as a family, being broken, being torn with pain. Now, the other category that I have found that also it's hard for us to cope with life twist is when it's with our own health. Maybe it's a negative turn of my own health, and it doesn't have to be something hugely drastic. Like, I can tell you for my own experience, I share with you how I've been struggling with the weight issues and my health, and how the doctor gave me some specific instructions and gave me a time frame of 6 months for me to do specific things that I needed to do in order to improve my health. But I can tell you right now, when I left that office, that doctor's office, back on December, it was shocking for me because it implied that I had to make adjustments that were going to be changing my entire life. And it took me a few weeks to kind of internalize what I needed to do and accept it and embrace it and define my action plan in order to be able to achieve those specific health goals that I was having and I was setting for myself. So when we are hit with one of those twists that has to do with our own health, regardless how drastic it is, it really affects you as well. Another one is a sudden situation. It might be out of nowhere, you have a complication, or out of nowhere, maybe you have a pain, and then you go to the hospital and it turns out that you have to have surgery. Something totally unexpected, something that changes kind of your life all of a sudden, or that you went in and you're coming out a week later and there was a whole bunch of things that you had to take care within that week that you didn't. So it's just puts you in contact, it makes you be in touch with how fragile life is and all these things, how vulnerable you feel when they happen to us. Now, the other category in which sometimes we have to cope with a huge life twist is at work, when it's about our job or our professional life. One of the common ones is when you're expecting some sort of recognition, validation. Maybe you're expecting some sort of a improvement, maybe that they're going to move you to a higher level, or maybe a more important position, and all of the sudden they decide that they recognize someone else, one of your co-workers. Let me tell you this, that really shakes you down. It really makes you feel so disappointed that it's sometimes even hard to go back to work and to connect with the joy of having and working maybe in the area that you're working, because it really hits you, when you're expecting all this recognition and then someone else gets it. That is one of life twists at the job area. Also, it might be that you're coping with a salary reduction. This is something that happens. Maybe it is hours reductions. Maybe they're going through some cutbacks in your office or at the place that you work at, and all of a sudden you have a budget, you are relying on this amount of money that you're going to be getting, and all of a sudden you're only getting half of it. That's quite a twist. That's quite an incident that it's really going to have an impact on you. So I wanted to bring it up. I wanted to bring it to your attention so we can be fully aware that these kind of situations happen. And another one, a more drastic one, can be that you simply lose your job. You go to work and they tell you that they're not going to be needing you anymore. These are things that even with the people planning that they're going to retire or that they're going to be changing jobs, if these kind of things happened, if they are the ones that come and tell you, before you take or make the decision that you're going to be moving to a different direction, to another job, and they come and they tell you this, it really kind of hits you real hard. So these are some of the things that we can actually experience, that huge life twist when it comes to our working area. Now, with our relationships, and now I'm talking about those love relationships, there's a couple that I want to bring up in case that you're going through some, so you can identify them. It might be that your relationship is going through a crisis, and you used to think that you get along so well and that everything was going great, and all of a sudden the two of you are drawn apart. The two of you are no longer connected as you thought you were. That's a relationship crisis, and it's one of those things that make you wonder. It really makes you think a lot about life and what's really going on. Now, the other twist can be when two people are changing their dynamics. It might be, I always address the fact that life is about cycles, and this is something that I always work with couples, making them understand that everything in life is a cycle, and within the relationship we go through different cycles, and the couple needs to be able, both of them, to get on board of each cycle. One thing is when you're dating, then a different cycle is when you're in a more mature relationship. A different cycle is when you get married. That's totally different. It changes the whole dynamic. But then the children, you have children, you become having a family, and then you become a mother or a father. It does change the dynamic again. And same thing happens when the children grow up and go away. So all these are cycles that the couple need to be aware of in order to get on board and work together to maintain their union, their connection, and the quality of the relationship. Otherwise, this is the kind of life twist that can break them apart. And in that sense, another category when it comes to life twist in a relationship is the breakup. Maybe you want to stay in that relationship, but maybe the other person decides that no longer wants to be in that relationship. Or maybe the two of you decide that the relationship is no longer working. But that breakup, it really does something to you, that you can feel it, that you feel that you're no longer the same, that you can feel the impact, and you can feel how it makes you question, it makes you wonder, and it puts you in what we call that personal inner crisis that we go through when we experience this kind of incidents. The other category that I have is when it comes to our finances. And it's funny because sometimes we just don't think about our finances like that. But let me tell you this. When you are short of money, let's say that you've always have had some fluency of your finances, and all of a sudden you're short of money, it's a life twist. It puts you in a position that you really have to go through certain adjustments and certain planning, and that's when you start being creative and deciding plan B, plan C, plan D, because definitely something is just not working the way it used to work, and something needs to be done. But it really hits you hard because you come from being used to having a certain level of life, and then now you're short and you have this level of life, and it's kind of hard to make the adjustments that you need. And some people, let me tell you this, they struggle. Some people go through a very hard time to the point that they don't want to accept that they have to make adjustments on their level of life, and they want to continue doing the same thing, and they want to continue keeping the same expenses, although they're not having the same money coming in and flowing. So be aware, because this is something that can actually hit you really hard and can affect the rest of your life as well. A material loss, like losing your property or losing a vehicle or losing your money, it can also be one of those life twists that will change your life. It will have a huge impact. And another one that is not so drastic, but it's something that some people struggle with, has to do with budget adjustments. When you have to going through the budget and seeing where you need to cut down, and when every time that you need to make the adjustments, or whenever there's more money, whenever there's less, all these are different twists that you have to go along with it. That if you just don't accept what's happening and start redefining what you're going to do about it, it can really affect the rest of your finances and the quality of your life. Now, some other common twists, I didn't put this into categories, but I just put them as some common twists that we all have experienced, or I should say that everybody who's alive may experience any of these. One of them is an accident, any type of accident, a car accident, a motorcycle accident. Maybe you're walking and you have an accident. Maybe you fell down, or maybe something fell on top of you. Whatever, even if it's just something simple like a car accident that didn't have major damage, but it will delay you. It will imply that you have to do reports. It will imply that you will have to make adjustments with the insurance. It has all these different routes and different consequences that really kind of messed up your life for a while, don't you think? So whenever there's an accident of any kind, it kind of puts you, it kind of throws your whole world upside down. That's how we feel when we experience those. Now, another common twist is any simple loss, something as simple as losing your purse, or losing your wallet, or losing some documents. I was just referring on Monday on my other session how I went and printed my notes for the presentation that I was having that day, and I left, and I don't even know where I left those documents, and I was so upset. For a few hours I was hooked trying to think where exactly I had left those notes. So it can be something as simple as losing a piece of paper. I don't know about you, but that would be enough to drive me nuts. I would just go over and over and over trying to find it, or thinking how I could have been so, and I start just beating on myself, thinking of all the bad things and telling myself negative things because I should have known better. So even little things like that, it's like a twist that really you can be having a great day, and it can just turn it into a very miserable one. And finally, the other common twist that I have for you, it's something that does not turn out the way you planned, the way you expected, the way you anticipated. It can be maybe something that you bought. Maybe you went to a store and you bought something, and then you go home and then it doesn't look on you the way you thought it was going to look, and you're kind of disappointed, but you don't have the time to go back to the store, and then you have it in the bag, and then you have that money, and it's just like a whole mess. Something as simple as that can be a twist that can also have a negative impact on your mood. It can be a transaction. It can be that you were supposed to put specific numbers and you put the different one, or you were supposed to put an account number and you made a mistake on one of the numbers. Maybe it's an agreement involving other people. When any of these little twists happen, you feel it. You can sense how your whole body tenses and how your whole mood changes. And that's what this is about. What do we do with those life twists? What do we do as parents when we are planning and we want something for our kids, and we are anticipating the amazing life they're going to have and how great they're going to do, and all of a sudden they decide something totally different for themselves? something that you don't like, something that you don't think is the best, I tell you, I've been struggling with it myself. So I have some considerations that I want to address with you. These are the same ones that I have been kind of reflecting on myself. And the first consideration that I want to leave you tonight with is that life twists, life incidents, they don't define our lives or who we are. And again, because sometimes when there's a twist at work, or maybe my kids didn't turn out to be doing what I wanted them to do, we feel question as parents, we feel questions that as a person. So it is important to keep in mind that life twists and in those life events, they don't define our lives and they don't define who we are. We know they affect us big time, okay? I'm with you on that. And they shock us and they shake us, but we are responsible to decide how we will allow those twists and events and incidents to influence, and how we're going to allow them to impact us, how big their impact is going to be, for how long that impact is going to last. It's up to us. We are the ones responsible to decide how we want the impact to be. If we want it to be long term, let me tell you that I've known people and I've worked with people that have been still going through the impact of something that happened in their life 30 years ago. Yeah, it doesn't make any sense, does it? So again, whatever happens in our life, in terms of those twists or those incidents that we didn't plan for them, or when things didn't turn out to be the way that we had anticipated they were going to be, that's not what's going to define us, and it doesn't define who we are. But it is up to us that we define what we're going to do with it, how we're going to continue moving on and moving forward. If we're going to be always label with whatever situation or twist happened on our forehead, or if we're going to put that aside and move on. Yeah, it shook me. Yeah, it shook me. Yeah, it hurt. But you know what? There's more ahead of me. Now, the other consideration that I want to share with you is to never assume that a life twist or a life incident is your punishment. Life is just the way it is, and life happens, and everyone alive is exposed to it. I think I read a quote. I don't remember who exactly put it, but I remember seeing it on Facebook, and it just said that if anything that happens while we're alive, we should be thankful, because there are others that didn't have that opportunity to experience that. And which really means is that they didn't experience it because they're dead, they died. So at least we're alive, at least we have opportunity, we have hope, we have better days ahead of us. So I know that maybe you're going through something that is not what you would like to be going through, and this I speak with my heart on my hand. I've been there. I remember when my oldest boy was diagnosed with a disease that had no cure, and he was only 10 years old. And to me, that was the worst nightmare that a mother can go through, aside from the fact of losing a child. But having a sick child and you are so powerless, there's nothing you can do to change that. And let me tell you this, I got my very low moment at that time, and so did my son. But we both, me and him, decided that that was not what's going to define us. I decided that I was not going to be the mother of the sick child, and he decided that he was not going to be the sick child. He decided he was going to be who he was, and I decided that I wanted to be who I was. And although we were experiencing that adversity in our lives, we tried to see the good things that were happening, and we try to see the blessings and the support that we were having, and enjoy that we were still together, that he was still alive, and that he was fighting for his life and I was fighting along with him. And instead of just being sad for the things that we couldn't change, we kind of put all our attention in the things that we could do, our human part. What is it that we needed to do? We went to doctors, we pursued treatment, we did what we needed to do. And I remember at that moment when he was 10 years old, they couldn't even give me how long he was going to live. And let me tell you this, he's 21, and I'm struggling with the headaches of any mother of a 21 child, or probably more. What am I saying, my friends? That it's not a punishment, and it doesn't have to define you. Everybody experiences some adversity at some point or another. I'm not going to talk about yours because yours is the one that hurts. Mine is the one that hurt me. So I respect that and I can relate to your pain, but I can tell you that you need to move past that pain and continue living your life the best possible way that you can, because it's just an adversity and everybody alive is exposed to it. We used to have that tendency to ask, why me, why me, why me? And I remember reading a book about someone that went through all the terrible adversities that I could possibly imagine, to the same person, okay? She went through them all. And she said she learned to ask, why not me? What is it about me that it wouldn't happen to me? Because I'm alive and I'm in this world. So things happen, and it gave me a very good perspective, because sometimes we just kind of relate it to, oh, I don't deserve this. It has nothing to do with what you deserve or not. It's simply life, and just moving past that will help you embrace life with all the wonderful other things that will have for you. It's not only about bad things, okay? Many good things, many positive things will happen as well. Do not feed or nurture those inner fears. Some people are constantly living on the edge. They're expecting the worst. And I can relate to that, because for a long time in my life, I kept thinking if something good happened, oh my gosh, I was then afraid because something bad was going to happen. And you know what? It doesn't play that way either. Good things happen, bad things happen. That's just the way life is. So do not go putting all that effort into feeling miserable or feeling scared. Let me tell you this. I've learned that the same amount of effort, the same amount of energy it takes to worry about something, to worry and being in fear about the unknown, something that you don't even know if it's going to happen, exactly the same effort and same energy is what it takes for you to remain calm and to decide not to anticipate those things, to decide not to worry about those things that have not happened yet. I'll tell you what, worry about them when they come to you. Worry about them when they're happening, but not before. Don't waste your energy. Try to use that energy on something else. Now, finding your inner peace, this is what I have for you. This is my treat for you. And this has been the recommendations that I have implemented myself. And it has been what I have shared with other people that I have been assisting and helping them grow. And they have shared with me the amazing results they've had, which I knew they would have, because again, this is something that I do myself. So these are my personal recommendations to you to find your inner peace. The first one is to learn to be fully aware that there will be things. There'll always be things. There'll always be events that we can't control. This is something that we need to be fully aware. There are simply things that I cannot control, okay? Number 2, accept life on life terms. It means that we're all exposed and vulnerable. So I need to accept that as well. It can happen to anyone who is alive. Number 3, put into practice your self-control. This is how I practice my self-control. I try to control my own thoughts when they come, to identify them, to see them as they're crawling in my mind. I control my reactions to those emotions that I know overwhelm me. I'm going to give you an example. When my son was diagnosed, when he was 10 years old, I remember I was so afraid of what was going to happen that I could picture myself, I could see myself clearly sitting at the funeral house with people coming to give me their condolences and sitting next to me and holding my hand and crying with me. This was 11 years ago. He's still with me. But let me tell you this, it got to a point that I was so afraid that it was as if I was just expecting it to happen any minute. And I had to remind myself, this is not happening. You have to keep yourself on the now, today. What am I doing in the future if it's not here yet? So controlling those reactions, those emotions that overwhelming, that's huge. And we need to be able to identify the thoughts that are coming and how it's making me feel so we can put that stop. I usually invite the people that I work with, and this is also another strategy that I learned, to imagine a huge stop sign, very big and very bright, in my mind. Whenever you're having those silly thoughts of things that are not even happening, imagine that big, huge stop sign in your mind. Worry about it when it comes your way. In the meantime, same effort not to worry. And the other thing on how I control myself, control my thoughts, control my reactions, pulling myself away from the noise zone, the worry zone, that busy zone in my mind that I'm going on and on and on, thinking and thinking and thinking, in order to clear my mind and detox from all those negative thoughts that I'm having. Now, my fourth recommendation for you tonight is to nurture your inner spiritual self. You always hear me that I say that we need to believe in something that is greater than us. We need to believe in something. I have openly said what I believe in. I don't know what you believe in, but you need to have some sort of faith. And to nurture your faith and your spirituality and your inner strength, it's something that is going to help you keep those negative thoughts away. And my final recommendation is to nurture the positive state of mind. You need to practice your positive thinking. Don't tell me you can't. Yes, you can. Just practice. Fake it until you feel it. Remember, put these things into practice. Remind yourself, this is not happening. Everything is going to be fine. Everything is going to be great. And you know what? Even though it's not, because sometimes things will happen, then you deal with those things and you keep going, because eventually things are going to be just the way they need to be. Life goes on, and whatever it is, whatever happens, life will continue moving forward and everything will be the way it has to be. My dear friends, as you can see, we all at some point or another have experienced those incidents or life twist that has really made us question and made us worry and made us crumble and simply fall apart. But let me tell you this, it's not who you are, and it doesn't have to define your life. It's just an event, maybe a situation, maybe a circumstance, and that's part of life. Fortunately, you are alive and you're part of this life and you're being able to experience that. And I can assure you that by moving forward, by doing these simply recommendations, you're going to be feeling better. You're going to be feeling much more at peace regardless the circumstances. And you're going to be able to face each thing, one thing at a time, one day at a time. I hope you enjoyed the session tonight. I really hope if you didn't get to have some notes on it, just make sure that you go back to the presentation on video that we're going to be having it after the session and take notes on it, because these are simple things, but they do help. Write down your recommendations for finding your inner peace and practice them. And I can assure you that you'll feel much better. But remember, life is not only about those negative things that might happen. It's also about the blessings and the enjoyable moments that we all have experienced also at some point or another. My name is Xiomara Mayo Ingram. I thank you for being here with me tonight, and I hope to see you next week with Get Over It. That's our topic for next week. So I'll see you then. Have a great evening.